welcome everyone to this week's Elemental Evolution. Once again, I hope you've had a fantastic week. It seems like the vibrations of this planet have definitely shifted into either a higher level of consciousness or into at least a happier space for most people. So let's start off with that, and let's welcome Rhonda and Amy. Are you guys there?
Hi there.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
We have a special guest with us who has, I feel after reviewing a lot of his work that he has a deep understanding and has probably come to this planet in a time where it is so desperately needed. And so help me welcome Daniel. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hiya.
Hi, Daniel.
And I think that when you and I first talked, and when I asked you about the introduction, you gave me a term that I love, and that was warrior, right? A peaceful, a light warrior. And I don't know, I'm not using the phrase light as in light worker. I'm talking about a warrior that is bringing knowledge and love and a new vibration to this planet. So thank you and welcome.
Cheers. It's an honor to be here with everybody. Get my voice out there a lot more and stuff, and just speak about some of the things I've learned and stuff.
I think that's great. And so one of the things that I think is fascinating right now that a lot of people may or may not know about or may not have a very clear understanding is tone, vibration, and energy, right? Like how that is affecting us, how it affects the planet, how it is affecting pretty much this reality, right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, everything is communication, Like a lot of people say everything's energy and stuff, which, to an extent it's true, But, I like to say everything is communication because then, you can apply that knowledge a lot more better, within the world, because then you can be conscious all the time of, how you're expressing yourself and, what kind of body language, you're trying to give off as well. You can be a lot more aware of everything that's going on, all of the time. So, that's what I like to.
I'm sorry. There was a little bit of a delay. I'm sorry. Do you think, so when you said that everything is energy, but you like to view it as more like communicating, do you mean like communicating through that energy with these tools that you're speaking of? We have our voice, obviously, but we also, you mentioned, your body language. How do you think that relates to the energy vibration that people are feeling?
Well, basically, most of what's spoken, you can find a lot more, like stillness when people do stillness. If you do stillness and go into stillness, everything can be known within stillness. It connects you to absolutely everything because you're taking yourself, the small you out of the equation. That opens you up to everything that's actually there, that you can perceive and that's in your reality. So, if you want to communicate better, all you have to do is become more still in yourself. And that straight away, as soon as you take the I out of the equation, the small you, it allows, a greater you to emerge, and that's got a far more, greater awareness of everything,
Daniel, when you first started down this path, what led you to this path? How did all of this awareness and information and knowledge come through? Because when I look at the work that you've done, it has been just extraordinary and so encompassing, the volumes of information. Tell me how the information started coming. Yeah.
Because you're so young.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was a lot younger than I am now, but I've always, been conscious to an extent. It's just as you get older, you learn, a hell of a lot more, and, it becomes an ongoing thing. And, even now, everything, my whole being, it never stops. It's like a path that's infinite, you just carry on learning, carry on refining yourself and expanding your awareness. And, there's no stopping it because, that's what infinity is. It's infinite, but where it really started was I got to, it's probably around, I don't know. I mean, I've always been conscious all my life, like it says, but around 2006-ish when, YouTube was just starting to, come out and stuff. And, I decided to, I didn't even have my own channel or anything on YouTube for a few years. I was just on there soaking everything up that I could, because all of this, information was, very new to me, and, there was a lot going on in the world, and, I knew that I had a lot of solutions to a lot of the problems that were going on in the world. And, I knew that if I had some solutions, then other people must have the solutions, but they're not actually implementing them. And then I was, decided, there's something going on. There must be a force in the world that's preventing people, from actually, creating the solutions and actually living them, every day. So, then I started finding out that there are actual groups within the world that don't want people to, go to a higher level of consciousness. They don't want people to create solutions or be, a part of the solution, because they themselves, the people who do this, or the beings or whatever, they like to, have people, on a lower level, because it allows them to, basically suck all of the energy and their labor out of them from what they're doing, because, what we're dealing with in the world is, we're dealing with people and beings who, they don't create for themselves, they don't create abundance. So, they need us to be able to do that. And so the only way to do that is to, basically hypnotize, people into, doing what they want, and if you can manage to do that, without them even realizing, then, that's what they've done, so.
So I think that that's fascinating that you brought that up on the show, because yesterday I actually watched something on energy vampires, which, to be honest with you, I have my own belief about how energy works and how it is exchanged. And so this brought a lot of confirmation, and what you're saying, it does as well. It seems that, yes, I believe what you're saying, that there are beings who either feed off of the lower vibrations. That's why they create it. That's why they manifest in a way that puts most of the population into fear and survival. Right? It allows not just the vibrational control, but it also allows physical control. When people are in those states, it's pretty much a sheep level, right? Does that make sense? But
Yeah. I mean,
it's really easy to manipulate somebody when they're in fear and in survival.
yeah,
Right?
and it's true. And, that's what these, ruling families and elites and, beings, I call them FOD, which is, forces of dissonance, which is a term that I like to use.
Yeah.
And, basically, they create a culture of death. And today in the world, we're living within a culture of death. Everything's about fear, like you says, and, to these people, chaos pays to them, the more chaos they can create by, funding groups like Boko Haram in, Africa, or ISIS, in the Middle East, and destabilizing regions, or creating, countries that create, destabilization in areas, such as Israel, sorry. They will, fund with their, energy, the energy that we call money, they will pump all of that energy into those different areas, because, chaos pays, to them.
To them. And this is where, but here's where it came into my consciousness yesterday, and I'll be interested to hear your view on this, is that I realized that one of the things that happens is that it still is a free will. Like, we're talking about energy vampires, but the truth is that nobody can take something that you're not offering. And it's like all of the things that are happening on the planet, I have question as to, there are some who are not vibrating in that. But I would say that a majority, including myself, vibrate in and out of those same levels. Because I can be of the highest vibration, my consciousness is high, and then let somebody piss me off on the highway. Do you know what I'm saying? When I'm driving, or there's something going on, and I'm not being conscious, right? And all of a sudden I'm ranting and raving like a complete maniac, until I come back into the conscious and I'm like, whoa, that was weird, or, whatever, but it's still there. And so I question as to, we had talked about earlier, the universe being a mirror, a reflection. Do you think that this planet is also the same, a reflection of what we are all holding, or is it just something else?
Well, the universe, it's a direct reflection, of ourselves, but it's like you says, a lot of spiritual people and stuff, they think that if they hold a high vibration, it's going to keep them, from the bad. Which, to a degree, yeah, it's true that you yourself won't be affected. And it doesn't matter, how much chaos is going on in the world, you could still, hold a smile, on your face still and still be in a high state. But the truth is, people still need to, do their, they still need to stay in that state, but actually, actively, physically do something as well, about, things, it's, because we're in a physical realm, physical action's going to be needed, to get to where we need to go, and
Now, when you're talking about physical action, are you talking about like actually physically creating something, doing something, or are you talking about energetically, like,
Because and I don't mean to be confusing, but it seems like, and I've heard because you said it's within, right? And all these other things. So if you start changing your consciousness, do you think that that will reflect not just for you, but everyone? Or are you saying that everyone is in creation and so we can be affected by the energies that are not just us? Damn, that was
well,
a lot.
yeah, that's okay. It's well, in the spiritual realm, there's when you have a thought, there's nothing stopping the thought, so it just goes on, forever and ever. But in the physical realm, when you have a thought, if you as a person have a lot of integrity and you're very conscious, you're very aware, and you're very still within yourself, to a high level and a high degree, your thoughts will influence all of the thoughts of the people and the beings around you, to a big degree. So, if you're powerful spiritually, you will be influencing thoughts around you, to a certain degree. But, I always, like you says earlier, it's not about the culture of death. I'm part of a culture of life. So I like to protect life and, guard life and, try and help it thrive, where I can, because that in itself
what is that?
makes, yeah, go
I'm
on.
sorry, life. When you, like, give me a better description of that, because
I'll be honest with you, like this, it's not that I don't have appreciation for life, but I also feel that there's a lot of manipulation and control put into the thought of life, and that's where the fear of death comes. So what is your description of life?
Well, life, it's just a presence, and I don't know, it's how the will of, the creator, allows itself to, to enter into this domain where we are today. That's its, ultimate expression, I suppose. The ultimate expression of the creator, is life, I'd say. And the secret to life, like a lot of people say God is love, I'd say that, life, the secret to life is love as well, So I'd say that, it's not just a culture of life and guarding life, my motto that I've always said is, be love. And there's so much wisdom and so much deepness, there's so much in that small statement. If you just say be love, and then I always leave little ripples coming out of it as well, because if you do, be love and
So
you do that.
So my question is then, and I get what you're saying, and I agree that I mean, that's one of my things is when I start to have negative thoughts or I start to go into that space, I have a mantra of peace, love, joy. And I just say it over and over and over again until I'm either distracted or thinking of something else. But I also know that in creation, in the universe and how things work, it takes more than just one energy to actually create movement. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Like
It's,
friction, like magnetics, like if you think about how literally like if it's a reflection and we're looking at the physical as a reflection of what we know as the universe, right? Then you have to look at the certain things that we use and know, and like magnetics and all of these different things, it takes the positive and the negative to actually cause movement, to make flow, to make change. Right? So if you are only vibrating in one space, then what happens?
yeah, but it depends what the, the space is. Cause I always, like we're speaking on negatives and positives, I just like to go beyond, all of that kind of stuff. I like to, I think that, one person, can change, the entire system, for everything and, everyone, because we're connected to the system, so if your will is strong enough, in yourself and, you do that, then, you can have a big effect, on everything because you're the strongest pull in that area. You're the strongest singularity in that space. So everything like a black hole and everything, or white hole, will, the vortex will, wrap itself around you and stuff. But if you want to amplify, that energy, more and more, then if you work with others, because you can't really do anything alone, within this world. And even, Native Americans, they know that, just surviving in the world, there'll come a time when you always have to rely on other people. But make sure that when you do rely on other people, you have people around you that are, as strong as you are, if not stronger, because then, that will cultivate, that'll put you into an environment, that can cultivate a higher consciousness, and make you stronger as well. And also, you can learn off them, through example as well, and, you are right though about, reflecting things, I call it, the law of shining. And, some people have talked about this in different words and stuff, but if you do shine what you want to be right now, the same as if you do shine out, what you want to, what you need in your life, it will come to you, because the universe is a mirror and it will reflect outwardly, eventually, if you hold that, that thought and that belief and, don't let anything shake it, So.
I do know. And here's, oh, go ahead. What?
Last question real quick. Daniel, you and I kind of touched on this a little bit last night when we were chatting and talked about laws of magnetic attraction. And, when you're speaking about this in my head, I'm daydreaming about all these fractals, which to me look like little magnetic squares and triangles, that are kind of being sent out and then, finding others, other shapes that they kind of fit with and then rebonding and reforming with that. But that's such a removed vision. How in our real life, say for example, this radio show, how would the law of one or magnetics, get you to where we are here today? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing, if you want to, get you from where you were to where you are, there's a few things, but, one of the things that, you have to be is, just open, you have to be open to possibilities, and the way I say as well, I'm a being of love, you have to be not afraid, to love and to be open. And, I know some people have spoken about, how to be discerning because, the only reason why people are afraid to love is because they're afraid of getting hurt or, used or abused or whatever else, but I always go on, I do stillness every day, meditation, I've done it for many, many years. So, I'm very still. And, my energy is very compressed, in this small, body that at the moment I've had to do a lot more exercise so I can create a bigger vessel, a better, stronger vessel for it, which is just a natural process, as you go to hold more energy. And that's why the Buddhist monks also did their kung fu, because the stillness level that they, were trying to get to, their bodies couldn't contain their energy, at that level. So they had to create and build new bodies for themselves, and that's why they do all the kung fu and everything and all the, the breathing exercises, and stuff. And, yeah, but,
So I want to
the thing
jump. I'm sorry, Daniel.
yeah, I was going
I
to say
want
the
to
thing
jump.
that led me to here was just basically just being open to possibilities, and responding to opportunities, as they present themselves.
Which I think is not by coincidence, right? But I want to jump back because you were talking about the reflection of the universe and what's happening on this planet right now, and how the individual and how the connection of all is in existence, right? But that also that somehow you are an individual but still affected by the whole, right?
Yeah, we're like white blood cells, within a body.
That's what I
And
was going.
yeah,
That is exactly where I was going, because that's, again, when we were talking about as within is without, the body, this is where I know that this was before we started recording, but when I was saying that the body is also a mirror, right? It's like, it's not on accident that if you hold something within you, right? Like, let's say you're really sad about something that happened in your lifetime and you just can't get over it. It's always a memory. It's not something that you dwell on or live with, but it's stuck there within the cell, right? That
yeah,
cell, like what you're talking about, is a projecting out and pulling in of reality and creation, right? Each cell, like what Amy was talking about, that's divided out and projecting, right? That is, each cell within our body is also the universal energy, right? So when you start talking about, only being, again, of one vibration, this is where I want to get back to this, because again, when you look at the cell, you look at creation, you look at everything that it takes, it is not just about love and light, because that is not human. That is, we have already experienced the spiritual reality. We are here in this physical. Going into the 4D is still physical. It's just being able to expand again our consciousness so that our creation is not limited to the structures that have been shoved up our ass. Excuse my language. Anyway, so I want to hear, I want to see or hear your perception on how it is that you think that the vibrations that are manifesting on this planet, right? Because each planet holds a vibration. Each planet is projecting in. We have had thousands and thousands, millions of years of creation, right? So the timeline and all of these things that are put into existence to cause fear and death, and all of this is only of this timeline, and it will change and it will evolve. And I think that that's part of why you're here. So go ahead.
yeah, definitely. I mean, things are always evolving, constantly. And, like Bruce Lee says, how can you control another person when you can't even control your own thoughts, from moment to moment, and, he's
Exactly.
correct.
But do you think that, so here's my other, I kind of have a lot of question around these things. And one of the things that I've been thinking about recently is that I have judgment on, or I held judgment on people who were not seeing things the way I was, right? Like believing certain beliefs that I felt are primitive or unsubstantiated or, Neanderthal, as I used to say. And what I realized is that, first of all, who am I to decide for another? But secondly, that each being in their reality and in their experience, maybe they need to be in that space. Maybe they need to be at a level, it's like we're all on Jacob's ladder, right? And so it's maybe they're on step 4, where some of us are on step 7, and maybe some are on step 11, and maybe some are on step 1. Do you see? It's like, so when we carry this judgment or this holding of what we are experiencing now, I think it's important what you said about if we, the individual, the being, is vibrating at a higher level, your experience will be different. Can you go more into that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you says, when you think spiritual people, you think that, I'm spiritual, they're spiritual, great, but, it's not about that. It's not about creating, identities, human beings, you have to find the human beings out of the population, and a human being will never bring harm, to people outside themselves. They'll never, try to dominate or control, any other in any way. And like you says, you won't try to force your beliefs or, where, you think a person should be, because, there's really no way to measure where anybody is anyway. There's no way you can do it, so what you have to do is, you have to, first of all, focus on what you're doing, which is what we're doing now, and how I ended up here anyway in the first place, which answers your question earlier as well. And then the second thing is, you need to recognize, the people who you can work with and who you can do stuff with and create things with, because, although, you are connected to everything, and one being does have the potential to, create, and change the whole, it will be amplified, massively by working with others, and there's no greater thing, to give to others, because, when people come into this world, they have a cargo, like a gift that they have to deliver into the world, and, that's what you have to find out. You need to discover what it is and then give it to others, and give it to the world. Why? Because, when I leave here, I don't want to leave here and just be all comfortable in my life. I want to leave here and, I want to have given, everything that I've had, that I have, that I've got. I want to deliver my cargo and then, expend all my energy and be, knackered, completely tired by the time I leave, that's my plan.
I love to hear that because, well, and the thing is, you probably won't have to be tired because, energy is amazing, and it seems the more you give, the more you get. So I think that you are on such a great path, and you're doing and really focusing on some things that I feel like are really important. And one of them is tone. I read something that you had put together, and it talked about the pyramids, Stonehenge, and different layouts on the planet. Can you kind of describe that for us and go a little into what that's all about?
Yeah, well, like you said, everything's, a reflection, isn't it? Outside ourselves, and the ancients, they were masters of, this kind of stuff, I mean, there's more than enough proof now, with 100% certainty, to show that there are many civilizations within the past that were a lot more advanced, on Earth, more so than we are today, and I mean, I've covered it in depth in, my series, Raising Eden, and, Transcendence. Yeah. And then, I've created thousands of videos since, 2008. And, I mean, Brian Forster, he flies all over the world, today and, goes to all these ancient sites as well as, many other people as well. And, they've just uncovered so much, great stuff that, there's without a shadow of a doubt that, in the ancient past, we were, that there was civilization or, high consciousness on the earth that was more advanced than, what we are, today. And, there's like people like, I don't think Enoch is an actual person. I just think it means to speak or, to enact. And, and that, describes a wondrous civilization in the past, who misused the keys of higher knowledge, and they were unable to save themselves, from what happened to them. And, there's more than enough proof to show that all this did exist, did happen, like Graham Hancock, he's been going into a lot of, this stuff lately as well and stuff, and in the past as well in some of his books. And, there's more than enough evidence there for everybody to have a look at, It's, none of this stuff's new really. And, if you want to know about, DNA and, languages and stuff and ancient languages of light, you should look into Dan Winter as well. He covers it, in depth, and, he's just fantastic, because, he goes into all of the geometry of it as well and stuff of the universe.
So Amy has a question for you, but I want you to go more into that for sure, because that's important, I think, the language. Amy, are you there?
Yeah. I mean, my question is, if all these ancient sites, and part of the information that you, had put forth in some of your videos was that, for example, the pyramids hold their own tone and vibration. And that tone and vibration adds to the structure that is, the all of that pyramid. So if those pyramids or those ancient tones that are installed into the stones that have become our reminders and guideposts, for finding our way back to who we really are those vibrations held within us as well? And then how do we access that? Is it walking among the pyramids? Not all of us have enough money for airfare. Is it going within and contemplating the pyramids and then resonating with what we think they sound like? I mean, how do we magnetize ourselves to receive information from non-communicative energy forms? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, you need to, recognize, the higher consciousness of yourself. It has a specific frequency, and the frequency is, think of the time in your life when you was most at peace, because the time in life when you were most at peace is the moment when, you have the least amount of resistance from your mind, because, a person has two minds. They have a human mind, the I that they think with, but then they also have a deeper mind, a greater mind. And it's the greater mind that you need to, connect to. And, your higher self, it's not an individual, it's a relationship, and everything is relationship. So all you need to do is get yourself into relationship, to your true self, your higher self, and, you are your higher self. You just have to remember, you just have to be open and, and also while you're within this world, use discernment not to be, used and abused or whatever as well, but, like I says, think of the time when you were most at peace in your life and, that's your soul frequency, that's the higher frequency of, your true self. And, whatever brings you peace, to get yourself into that higher state, whether it be doing art or music, or, creating something, whatever conduit you choose to get into that higher state, it doesn't matter as long as you can get yourself into that state, I mean, I put music on and, I do loads of paintings as well and stuff. And, I relax and, I find that as well, to get myself into that state, there's two easy, like cheating ways to do it as well. One is I, put myself into a bath or something and then I go below in the water and then that allows me to become really still, and water is like the lubricant between all dimensions anyway. It's very pure, it has memory and, can, keep information within itself. And, you can program water to realign its, molecular structure to whatever you want it to be, But the other way that I do it is also I wait till very late at night when my body starts to shut down naturally by itself. And then, I find it very easy to get into, different old states and stuff,
But is that writing? Because I find the same thing with myself. I have a better connection to more information when everything is quiet, when my neighbors are gone to sleep, when the television is off, when I have time to hear my own breathing. A lot of times I'll listen at night to music that will block out the outside noise, and then that is the only noise that I hear, besides myself, and it allows me to come to a greater understanding of connections between things. So it sounds like that there's a formula to being able to find the quiet state. How, in the middle of a city, do you find that the reduction of technology, when everybody goes to sleep, do you find that is a reason why it's easier for you when it's in between the state of sleep? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I know what you mean and stuff, and it's true about technology, but when it comes to technology, there's no weapon, no laser weapon, no secret weapon, or no alien weapon or ancient weapon, that can be fired at a person, to affect their, the higher consciousness if they are, focused in on it. There's nothing that can affect you, within the slightest if you're, within your true self. And it all comes down, everything just comes down to, self-knowledge, to know thyself. And, it doesn't matter if you're within a war zone, if you have the ability to be able to, still your mind then, you'll be able to not be affected by everything that's going, on as much, but still be within a highly aware state, more so than you would if you wasn't in a still state there, because, basically it's, don't let fear overtake you, because fear is, it's just a guide and an ally, showing you what you have to integrate and overcome to get back home, to your true self. That's all fear is. And fear doesn't become a problem until it washes over you. Never let fear wash over you or take control of you. It's kind of like a thief in the night that just comes in and, if you give it some control, if you give over to fear, then it will take control of your situation and, it will always lead you to something that's constrictive. It'll always lead you to, a path that goes nowhere, to something that's bad for you, so always be within that space of love, as much as possible in that peaceful state, and know that, you have that power inside yourself, all of the time. It doesn't matter where you go, where in space, where in time that you go, you've always got that power, so just be love, basically.
I wonder at what point in time fear took over. If the ancients,
the whole planet, you mean? Is that when did it become injected into society? Because that's
right,
where most people vibrate at.
right?
I mean, so I'm sorry, before we go into that though, Rhonda has a question. Are
Hi
you
there.
there?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'm here. I have a question. And Sherry knows, and I spoke with this about Amy also, in regards to vibration in the body. I experience and have been for about 5 years now that when I fall into a deep sleep, that it's more on, when the full moon and the new moon come about, this vibration just attacks my body. At first I thought it was my bed, but it happens all night long and it keeps me up and I fight it off because I don't know what it is. And, you're talking about tone and vibration, and I'm thinking that maybe this has something to do with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like if you have like a space, a spatial dimension, and then you have like we all know, all planets make certain frequencies and stuff. So if you have like a planet like the moon that's within that space, it will change the frequency of all the bodies within that area. So what you're saying about you feel different, at different phases of that's definitely true and stuff, as we all know. And, don't forget as well that, the moon and a body like that has a pull effect. We're mostly made of, so your water's, is getting pulled as well all the time, and twisted and stuff, so, that's probably what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I never understood it. I could never figure it out, and then you fall into the fear because you don't know what it is or what's doing it, and, some people actually talk to Leslie Blair, and I'm sure all the listeners are familiar with Leslie. And he mentioned, falling into the vibration, just fall into it and just let it happen. And I'm like, okay, if I do that, I'm going to end up somewhere and I won't be able to get back.
Yeah, I don't think you should fall into it and just let it happen. What I think is you should not, be afraid of it, not be focused on it, but just like I says, focus more on you focus more on what you're doing. And if you do feel weird or something at certain times of the month or whatever, that's all women do anyway, from time to time. But excluding that, if you do feel weird, just ease up on some of the stuff you're doing and just take more time out for yourself, to relax, and then, because it's a balancing, isn't it? Balance is the key to everything. So, if you feel that, you don't know what's going on and stuff, just, take a step back a little bit and, allow things to, balance themselves out,
Ah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. It really does. Because, the mind goes in all different directions constantly. And every day it's something different. So, I mean, I can imagine that the situations you get into with everyday life can affect things, like that.
Yeah, it's like being in a swimming pool and then they turn the wave machine on and all the waves are crashing up, and sloshing from side to side and stuff. It's a very turbulent, chaotic environment, So what you need is stability. And where's the stability going to come from? It can't come from outside of yourself like the elitists try to do, because they're filled with the most fear out of anybody, the elitists, they're filled with the most darkness and the most insecurity, out of anybody within, this dimension, so you've got to create stability, and, the stability just, comes from within yourself. And, all the thought forms in that environment, when your waters are being pulled, because of the moon and stuff as well, your body, in all different directions, it's, it's like all the water is sloshing up, all over the place. So and all your thought forms, because they're within vortexes as well, they're going all over the place as well, it's all sporadic, so you need to create stability. So, like I said, just focus on yourself, take time out, and just, relax, just relax. And
right. But even in the process of that, with the stability and the balance, it still happens. I mean, I go from point A to point B. I went from, where I was down to Florida, and it was so peaceful and just wonderful. And, it takes a few days to find me, and then bang, it happens again,
yeah.
So this is this has always been my question. What is this?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just, it's nothing that can be avoided, because the moon's above us. It's a part of, the system that we're in and stuff, but like I said, it's just, focus in, on yourself and stuff, and I mean, when you do that, it's not so much that you're avoiding it. It's you actually, you accepting that, there's no going around it. And then you're stabilizing it. So that will get you through. And spiritual isn't avoiding things, it's not, looking the other way. It's actually going through them. And the difference in degree of spirituality is how fast people can, get over big things like that without it affecting them enough, without it derailing them, and spiraling them off in a different direction. That's what makes a powerful spiritual person, They're not they're not affected as much. They go through all of the crap, but it just makes them stronger. They take it as a learning experience, a learning curve that they know it's to serve them ultimately, to make them more powerful, and life strengthens you. That's the purpose of life, to strengthen you, and, that's why we're here.
Right. Okay. So what do you do? Like with me, for instance, when this happens, there's no way to stop it. So what do? You just sit in it and let it happen?
Well, you sit in it and let it happen, but you also, focus on something else, focus on the positives, on positive stuff, and, like I says, focus in on that, that peaceful, part of yourself, whatever brings you peace. If you're in a chaotic environment, a turbulent environment, where you don't know what's going on, anything could happen, you need to create a space of peace within that. That's your power. That's what you have to do. So you need to create an anchor point within all of that creates stability, for you. So, although it's all going on, you're not as, as affected by it, whatsoever, and you can overcome it, and then integrate it. And through the experience of integration, that's when you evolve, that's evolution, that's what makes you powerful.
Oh, thank you so much, Daniel. I appreciate that.
It really sounds like, we're using youth like fear, and the wave pool is a great analogy. And I think that one of the examples I use to overcome the fear is the example of the POW, where they are in an chaotic and unpredictable and unloved world, but yet they still survive, with the power of who they are and wanting to survive through it. And, to go within themselves to be able to make it out of a POW type situation. I think that, our ancestors, our recent ancestors who experienced that, our grandfathers who were captured in Korea or Vietnam, even those back in World War II, and how they survived by really knowing who they were and knowing that this wasn't meant for them and that this was their experience, that they were observing. Because I've anchored into the strength that is that person, when these waves come crashing over us, I keep going, step aside. This isn't me. This isn't imposed upon me. I hate wave pools because you start, you feel that first surge and you know that people are going to be falling into you. So as soon as that first surge hits, I step aside and watch other people crash into each other and then be there to help, the people who were overtaken by it. Great analogy, by the way, Dana.
Cheers. Well, I like to say that, all you need to do is remind people, that, everything is one, everything is an ocean, they are an ocean, and even this dimension now, it's within a sea of motion, so I just remind people that they are the ocean and so they can't drown, because, they may be a drop within the ocean, but they're also the ocean within a drop, so how can they drown, in that kind of situation when they are the ocean itself as well?
Sorry, I had my mute on. Okay, so here's the interesting thing that I think you use a lot of water analogy. And I have had a lot of vision with water. And so it's probably one of the only things that I can think of that I have fear of. It's like what you were saying, it being a dimensional gateway. I feel like that the oceans right now are holding a very strong, I don't know if reflection is the right word or manifestation of what needs to be released on this planet so that people can do exactly what you're talking about, push forward and evolve and actually have the reality and experience of being able to hold a higher vibration. Because when you have lived generations in survival, right, which is a very low vibration, it takes us and it keeps you thinking into a place of hopelessness where then there is no light of anything else. Right? Limits. And what you were saying, how there's a reason that our society is set up like this, right? And it may just be powers that be, like the elite and all these other things, but it may just be a reflection of what humanity is experiencing. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, everything's a reflection, completely. The universe is a mirror and stuff, but it's down to people themselves, where they want to go from this moment forward, what they want to shine out. And like I said, we can create anything we want, we're powerful beings, and that's one of the reasons why, all this stuff's going on, to us, it's, on every single level, they're trying to, hypnotize us and control us and put us into a lower state, and, it's not hard just to, just say no, basically, if you know something's wrong, just say no and then get on with something else. And, don't, I always say don't engage in business with those who, are doing, bad stuff, don't buy the products, don't go, don't do what they do basically, cause, ultimately, evolution is up to us. We evolve by what we do. What we do creates us into what we're going to, become. So if you want to, be a highly conscious, aware being, then start living, that life right now. And then you've already succeeded. You are, from that point, a highly conscious, aware being. And, you'll only create ripples then. But, when there's very few of people who are conscious and aware on the surface of the world, it becomes very important, for like groups like, this to come together and other groups around the world, and hold that, vibration and hold that, community together, and giving everything into it. Because, if you give everything, you will get everything, because it's a reflection, obviously. But you need to make sure that when you do give, you're not giving to, the wrong people or the wrong, situation. And, I do a lot of meditation, so I'm always, checking in with myself every single day, my higher self, which is a relationship, like I said earlier, it's not an individual. It's, so every hour I check in with myself and, that helps me and prevents me from straying too far, from, my true self and what I should be doing within the world, and, I think that's, a good thing that everybody should do really, check in with
So when you're
themselves every
saying,
day and, take
explain
time for
that more.
themselves.
Explain check in with yourself a little bit more because maybe, I don't know necessarily that a lot of people are even conscious of the being within the being, right?
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, that's why this world was architected the way it was anyway. As soon as you're born, you're given a false identity. You're given a piece of paper, and then you're given a name, a fake name. And they don't even write it in normal letters, they put it into capitals and stuff, which takes it even further. But people need to know that a human being has two minds. There's two beings. There's the true you, and then there's the human you, like the vessel now, that they're operating through. And you need to put the two in relationship, true relationship. And like you says, most people are within the I, they're within the ego, and you need some ego. Otherwise you wouldn't get up in the morning and do stuff, so ego is not bad, don't kill the ego, it's not about death of the ego. It's about having it in true relationship with, the spiritual you, the true you, and then operating within the world and allowing that to guide you, through life. That's the leader, that's the leader of a person, you don't look outside yourself for leaders, you find people who have leadership abilities and, they can only have that if they're actually successful in what they do. Then, you can, be led a little bit, but ultimately the leader is, in yourself. You just need to learn to put it in true relationship, and then cultivate it every single day, as well. Take time out for that true part of yourself every day to strengthen it. Every hour, you can check in with yourself, or even if you don't do it every hour, checking in with yourself, and still in your mind or whatever, you can just make sure that you take time out for yourself, to balance things. Because if you do that, that in itself will give you, a hell of a lot of more, power to be able to create, effects within the world and change, because you'll be a lot more integral, you'll have a lot more integrity as well, and, your singularity will be a lot more compressed. So you'll send waves out a lot more, powerfully that will influence all thought, within what we call the mental environment, which is like a third realm of, all of this.
Right. So do you think that, again, so how do you feel that because like we were saying, the body also holds and plays a role, in my opinion, in all of this, right? Mind, body, soul. There's a reason there's a trilogy in almost every creation and existence. So how is it that you feel people are recreating a lot of the traumas that they experience as children, as they experience throughout their life even? They'll have the same type of relationships, they'll have the same kind of things over and over again throughout their lifetime happening, regardless of how their actual reality shifts and changes.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're thought forms, and because all of that is like a loop, a program loop. It's what they're used to, within their lives. So, if you have self knowledge, you can go beyond all of that stuff. It's them kind of thought forms that are in a loop. I mean, the ancient Greeks, they said a long time ago that, man, he binds himself in circles, in that kind of way, and only the greatest, beings, can ever, alleviate their own suffering, beyond that. And, in order to, alleviate, your mind's suffering, you need to make space for a greater mind to emerge, within that space. And that will break the loop, but it requires a hell of a lot of determination and focus, and a hell of a lot of work as well. And, people also, that's like work you can do within inside yourself. But if you want to break the loop outside yourself, like you says, people go into like certain relationships that they, had in the past, in the future, and, they're stuck in cycles and stuff. If they're surrounded by, strong people, or stronger people as well, that also helps, to get them out of that environment that they're within, that's detrimental to themselves. If they have like, friends and they build new relationships, built in, truth and strength and stuff, that can also, help to pull them from their old life into a new one, but ultimately, it will lie with them. They have to consciously recognize, these loops, and that it's the same thing happening to them, and then, respond to it, truthfully, and change it, want to change it, because, if they don't want to change something themselves, their friends or whatever can't, do anything about it, they've got to make the conscious decision to change it themselves, and then, move beyond it and know that actually, it's not as scary as they thought. They're not actually giving up something big for something small. They're actually giving up something small that's detrimental and, toxic, that they don't need. And they're actually going into a new place that's actually, a lot greater, and they're going to, have a lot more, better stuff that comes into that space,
I think the key with that, though, is the recognition of it, because all of us are aware of that. And still many of us get caught in that loop. And until we do the work, like you mentioned, and take the time to tap into ourselves each hour every day, which is difficult to do because a lot of us get caught up in such a busy lifestyle, that's the only way that could be conquered.
Yeah, it's true. It's, it doesn't matter what situation you're in, self-knowledge is what you need. You need to understand, your true self. You need to understand and allow, more of your true self, to express itself into the world. And in order to do that, you need to create a space, so I just, suggest creating a space, every day, and just sit there and just, just say to yourself, is there anything you need to know, or is there anything, anything that you can solve right there and then, and it won't be long, because our mind is given to us to create solutions to problems, like small problems, really, in the big scale of things. These are, small problems, they might be big, to the person at the time and stuff, but, in the scale of things, they're very small problems. So they can use their human mind to be able to, create solutions for them. But if they want to create and solve great problems, you're going to need the greater mind for that, and that's the deeper mind, beyond the human mind. But it can all be reached through stillness, every day, and meditation. People don't know the power of stillness, for the most part, or, that they have a true self, and then, they have the smaller, human self, they need to get everything in true relationship, and just, like it says, just take time out for themselves, every single day without question, because that's cultivating yourself, and that's refining who you are, that's refining, and it's the refining process over time that changes you into what you're going to become, and evolves you forward, and that's the part that you you need to create any kind of change, in your environment, in your home, or within the world, or the universe. So, that's very important. Take time out for yourself every day.
Right. So I think that the important thing here is people should learn how to meditate and make that connection. That's what it basically boils down to.
Yeah, they need to establish a relationship with the higher consciousness in themselves, basically, and then learn to, recognize that as well, and, not resist it as well, because I remember, at first I was, quite, scared myself of the level of peace and, quiet, and warmth and benevolence and love, that I felt, in that kind of state. And, you kind of feel drunk, on yourself when you're in that kind of state at first, until you get used to it. But that kind of state, that's the normal state of all human beings, that it should be, that's their natural state, and nature itself, which is a reflection of the human body on the outside, that's what nature is. It's a reflection of our body on the outside, and, when you're in that environment of nature, straight away, it gives you a connection to your true self, to, the earth, and to who you truly are, and that's why, today we may be struggling within the context, because we have cities and stuff that are illusionary man-made environments, but if we can go into nature, the environment, to create a relationship with a higher self, it's already there, it's been made for us, that's why God created nature, in itself. So we always have a constant connection to a higher self, until the point comes, maybe in the future, that we destroy it. But hopefully that is never going to happen, as it's never
Daniel,
going to end the world.
let's take a break,
Oh.
Daniel.
I hope it doesn't get that bad anyway.
Let's take a break. I think we lost Sherry.
All right, that sounds good, Stephen. We'll
Okey-dokey.
yeah, give us about, I don't know,
Yeah, we'll be
2
right
minutes.
back.
So before the break, we were talking about and discussing how your views of what people can do as a solution, as opposed to just focusing on what the reality that is maybe manifested from an old vibration. Do you think that there is something not just about the human body, not just about ourselves, something else that is contributing at this point in time for a reason to kind of help people move a little more forward, to help them wake up a little quicker? Because it sure seems like that's happening.
Yeah, there's definitely, changes taking place. I think we've all noticed, there's many people out there who's noticed as well that, this awakening, it is coming within waves. There are waves, measurable waves of, awakening. There was one in the summer of 2008 that a lot of people speak about, where a lot of people, towards the end of it, I started my YouTube at the end of summer 2008. And I think Amy woke up towards the end of there as well. And many people I've spoken to as well, hundreds, over the years, woke around that period. And then there was, towards the end of 2010 as well. And then since 2012, the end of 2012 onwards, it's, we've gone through the era, of awakening. We've gone into the era of, doing and being, So now we need to, put all of our knowledge, into use. And, knowledge is power. Yeah, that can be true. But knowledge is only power when you actually apply it in your life and in the world, So that's what we all need to do now, and moving forwards.
I think that that is so true. And I think that that is where, and maybe this is, you can give some more definition on this. This is where people get stuck, because they have so many things in this reality to distract, to put you into a vibration of survival, paying your bills. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. Keeping up with the Joneses, not having the Joneses judge you. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many aspects of life that you say are a choice, and you're right, but also a hand down from so many generations. So to pull themselves out of that point when they feel stuck, and also doing the meditation and things like that, I get it. But how is it that you think that they can actually start to change their mind about the reality they live in when they are living it as they have seen it in the past? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's the thing about all of this, it's not just one thing that they're going to have to change. It's their entire way of life and way of being, and a lot of what we're doing, there's, it's new territory, not just for us, but, for the entire world as well. And, there's so many examples of, tribes within the past, who had it right. I mean, all the, tribes on the earth, the indigenous ones from all over the earth, they were in balance with their environment. And, I'm not saying technology is bad, because ultimately, it's not. But what is bad is, anything that, that's created technologically, that's used, goes beyond creating self-sufficiency, then it becomes detrimental and is always used to, enslave populations, So only take technology as far as, as becoming self-sufficient with what you have, and we can see in the world today that, technology is rampant, and, that's the destination we're going, it is total enslavement through technology, of people who are stuck within their ego and, disconnected from, their, you could say spirit, or higher self, or, divine spark. But, unless we, change our lives, on everything, on every level, we're not going to get, what we need. And, we can create anything, as a race, We just need to be willing to not be afraid to give things up, certain things. There's power, in, sacrificing things that are unnecessary. And a lot of the things that are in, the Western world, the way of life and stuff at the moment is unnecessary, and there's no need for a lot of it. And, people, if they just take a step back, they can, they can identify loads of different areas in their life where they can do things better, and create a better life for themselves, and, we're not talking big changes. We're just talking, minor adjustments that can create better things, So, that's, what I'm doing, this year. And it's not a quick process either. Some things you can give up straight away, but it's like the balance thing, isn't it? It's, as long as you're going in the right direction and you are actually doing the work, you will eventually get to where you need to go to, like I always say to, people on this journey of truth, truth is not something you just become aware of. And then you're like a little, like you become aware of, and then, that's it. It's like a long refining process, to refine you from one state of being into another one. It's not just like something that you flick on overnight, And, I mean, you can have awakenings where, where like you feel like a switch is flicked on and you change and everything. But, them anchor points in a consciousness of, there was a slow process to get you from where you were to where you are, even when you do have them, epiphanies and stuff, So, as long as people are willing to do the work and be responsible, and, have a set goal as well that they wish to attain, and they don't even need to get to the goal of where they're going. As long as you have a goal, then you have a general direction, and, then it's a good thing,
I think that's important. The aspect of what you had just said in regards to the goal. It gives everybody something to shoot for. And like you said, even if you don't maintain that goal or not, it just gives you a little direction on which way to go, on whatever the journey is.
But isn't that just manufacturing a fractal of self?
Well, I mean, it's good to have a goal, but, like I said, it's the same with, when people are like, they have like a idealistic view of how they want things to turn out or stuff, that just basically invites disappointment, and, that's the mind that wants that. That's not the, the true, deeper self that wants them kind of things, the true self is happy, if you're going in the right direction and, becoming closer to who you truly are, it doesn't matter if you reach your goals that you set for yourself, because that's like a momentary, small thing, isn't it? In, the context of how large everything is.
Do you think that people are at a point where not only evolution or creativity or ideas, do you think the body is changing? Do you think that DNA is shifting?
Yeah, I think, like evolution is based on, what we do. We can become anything we want to be, as long as we, are very focused and, whatever we do in our life, has an effect on the body, and, definitely over the last few decades, the body and the shape of the bodies has, changed on people, and a lot of that has to do with loads of, many factors like, where they live and, even over thousands of years as well, that's why there's loads of different colours, of, different people on the world because of, the pressures of where they lived on altitudes and how much sunlight or how cold it was and stuff. That's the only thing that separates people really, nothing, separates us truly, on a, there's no big separation there really. It's all within the mind. And, when I say everything is one, I always remind myself that, on the highest level, there is no difference between me and anybody else. We all have the same potential and the same power. We just need to remember to use it, and, remember how powerful we actually are,
I do know. And I think that, I think part of this almost awakening or whatever you want to call it is that people are starting to understand the power within their own being. But I think another question that I have for you is that does this power take more people into ego, or does this take more people into what you're calling that loving space?
Well, it depends, it's, there's so many different manifestations of it, But if you really, one of the things that woke me up was the truth. I wanted to know the truth, no matter what it meant for me or my ideas, of myself, or, no matter, what I thought, of myself or others or the world. I wanted to know, the real truth of things. And then, in the end, I found out that, the truth is already alive and well inside yourself. And everything outside is just there to enrich your own inner truth, And, I always just think about, the ego thing, you'll never fall into the trap of, self-ego if you give yourself to, something greater than yourself. So, that could come through whatever form you want. I personally, I like to take myself out of the equation as much as possible and put myself into, work, serving the world and serving others. And, when you give in to others and when you give in to something greater than yourself, you're expanding into more of your own potential. You're expanding more into your true self. And that in itself is opening up the energy flows. You're reconnecting to, yourself, the universe on all levels in the world. And, you're just expanding, and your awareness is going to expand and it will never shrink down to what it was before that, so, you can do a lot more then, by just being open and, putting yourself to work for something greater,
That makes a lot of sense too, because maybe if you're, again, being energy beings or whatever that is, our focus, our attention seems to be a grand part of our creation. How much do you think the mind is in control of our being at this point in the game?
Well, I would say that if you, a lot of people think they're very spiritual, but, recycling and stuff and just meditating, so it doesn't make you spiritual, You've got to really, give everything, in every part of your life. There's 4 pillars of life and you need to have them all balanced. One is, your health and your body and your vessel. You need to take care of it and you need to take care of your diet, and what you're doing. And, the other one is, your relationships, and you need to take care of, all your relationships, and who you're in relationship with and what you're doing and, everything like that. And then there's your spirituality as well, the core of your spirituality, has to be, based on actual direct experience, and not actual, fantasy or fairy tales, which is a mistake that, a lot of spiritual people make. Where their actual, their imagination has taken over their path, and has led them, off, different roads that, some people can get lost on the roads for many, many years, and it's a detriment to their, spirituality really, and, a lot of people don't even notice, sometimes, but if you check in with yourself every day and, ask questions, and just take some time out, then you'll get to where you need to be, and you won't derail yourself,
I like that term, derail yourself, because we are we're on kind of this pathway, or maybe it's just the energy that we're choosing to experience, but it seems like that we are at some type of fork, some type of place where people are being offered the opportunity to either experience a new vibration that maybe we are not really aware of yet, or to continue experiencing, maybe even needing to continue to experience what is already in play. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think people just need to know, just to be responsible, and put in the work. Like I says, they need to be more aware of, that they need to put in the work every day. And, the awareness is not just going to come by itself, and, they will need to, enrich their being, with a lot of information. And yeah, there is a lot of disinformation out there. In fact, most of it is disinformation. But if they, stay true to themselves and just take things as a possibility, you don't even need to hold anything as belief. It's not there to derail you. It's there to serve you and enrich you, you know, and it's there to strengthen you, you know, and it's only there, you know, all this exists on the outside, you know, to strengthen your own inner self, you know, and, you know, to arm it, you know, against, BS, you know.
I love to hear that. So I think that if I'm understanding a lot of what you're saying is that we have it within us and we don't need to be dependent on what has been handed to us as either the reality as it is with the governments and religion and all of these things. We need to start creating anew from within us. Do you think that there have been examples? You talked about ancient lifetimes. And what examples would you use best to describe maybe a direction we have hope of?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the indigenous tribes, you know, and they've always, you know, lived in balance and harmony with, you know, the world. And, you know, one of the biggest things that people can use as a beachhead or an anchor point to create a whole new way of life and being, you know, where humans have actually achieved this within the world, is to, you know, the greatest hope within this world is not only the people themselves, it's what we already have as well up to this point, you know, and, you know, our creative flows of imagination as well, you know, forwards. But, you know, people need to observe the native tribes and the, you know, the indigenous tribes and see how they've, you know, got to where they have, you know, because they've lived for, you know, thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, you know, in balance. You know, they know how to look after the world already. You know, they have the knowledge. You know, we need to, you know, basically create a whole new way of being, you know, put technology into the new way of being, but only, as much as self-sufficiency, because then it won't be abused, you know, and just, you know, cultivate wisdom as well. But, you know, people need to give up everything if they want everything, you know. And, you know, and that goes on with the way of life. You know, we need to create a whole new way of life. But, you know, there's people out there, you know, the indigenous tribes who have already, you know, they've already created a, you know, fantastic way of living in balance with, nature, you know, and in harmony and stuff, you know, because, you know, they're some of the only beings within the world that are actually taking on the, you know, the signature of a white blood cell, you know, a white blood cell, you know, and, the way the West is at the moment, you know, the way people say it's a normal way of living, you know, it's far from normal, you know, this isn't a normal way of living, you know, millions, you know, thousands of people dying every, you know, day and year and, you know, wars all over the place, you know, that's not a normal state of affairs, you know, for a world, you know, human beings are supposed to be, you know, peaceful, they're supposed to be, you know, on a higher level, not bringing harm to others, you know, they're supposed to be stewards of the earth and animals, you know, and, you know, so I'd say if people, you know, ultimately it comes down to self-knowledge again. First, people need to work their own stuff out, you know, inside themselves. And then that will create a space after a while in themselves where they can give to others, but not give to others and make themselves destitute and, you know, poor. They'll be able to give, you know, in abundance, you know, to the world and to others. And then they're in a position, you know, to work with others as well. And then, you know, all the work will just be amplified, you know, infinitely then, you know, but that's a great starting point, you know, to, you know, to get to that place in yourself first and then, you know, go from there really, you know.
The world has just started though. I mean, think about it. This is just coming about with the world. I'm not saying just coming about, but people are now learning. Imagine how long it's going to take for this world to be actually a world of peace and love. Think about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things about, peace, you know, people haven't got the capacity for peace, you know, it's the reflection thing again. You know, people haven't cultivated peace in themselves, you know, so they will never be able to attain peace in the world, you know,
Right.
because the world is a reflection. So they need to, if they want peace, you know, it has to start with themselves. They have to master their own mind, you know, they have to, put themselves in true relationship, you know, with the higher self, with the higher consciousness. You know, they've got to take time out for themselves and they've got to put in the work, you know, every single day, you know, every day, you know, because you're not going to get given anything, you know, for nothing, you know, and we're the ones who have to do the work. You know, nobody else is going to do it for us. You know, no allies of humanity or anything are going to come down here into this world and do the work for us that we are supposed to be doing, you know. because we're the ones who are supposed to be doing it, and even if they were to come in, beings from other worlds or whatever and save the human race, which they never would because allies would not do that. We, 'cause they don't want to be babysitting, us for things that we should be doing anyway. What we need to do is become a force for good within the world, get organized, and, as soon as people who like peace are as organized, or if not more organized than those who like war, then there will be peace, after that,
Well, it's an incredible way of looking at things. I mean, the common human being doesn't look at things like that in our world. And having conversations like this on the radio, like on Sherry's show, is a great start, and other people sharing the knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, doing shows like this, it really just, puts new ideas out there, new thoughts, like even if there's one person who had, like one good thought during the show or whatever, and send them in a new direction that's beneficial to them, if you're working on yourself and it's beneficial to you, it's going to be beneficial to the whole as well, if you're following that true, spark in yourself.
And I think it offers validation too, because while you're talking, I'm putting pieces together of things that I know to be true and how I've found them to be true in my own life, and realizing that you and I are the same. And the goal is the same, just from different perspectives, from around the world. And working together with these groups and saying, you're just like me, having someone hear that going, well, they're just like me too.
Yeah.
And reaching out and being the best me and you, watching you, listening to you with your examples, putting the pieces together, is a connection that kind of supersedes, just knowing that there's someone else who knows what I know is enough to give me the peace to put away any doubt that I may have within myself, so that I can move forward in being, so that other people can see that within me and find it for themselves.
Yeah, like I said, like Jesus said, just be the example, and shine it, and if you do your self work and you're strong in yourself, it's going to make everybody else, stronger as well. And there was a saying as well that, girls compete with each other, but, women, they strengthen one another, and empower one another. And it's the same for guys as well, So, people just need to give up a lot of the way that they see us and a lot of the things that they, are told are normal, because the way the West is now isn't normal. And the reason why it isn't normal is because it's detrimental to the environment and it's detrimental to the world. It's not within unity or harmony. It's not natural, basically. It's not a natural way of being. It's a learned way of being. And they need to unlearn, what's been learned and start again, and, looking at indigenous tribes and stuff, there's so much wisdom there, and it's largely ignored, and people need to look into the native tribes all over the world and see how they do things. And, and really listen to them, because they really know what they're talking about, and that's one of the big areas that's, missed out in our world at the moment, so, I work with, some native people as well. And, I like to do that because I know it's one of the biggest hopes for the human race as a whole in coming together, because, they've had to struggle for, many hundreds of years. And, that's why I like to go into the ancient history as well in Europe and stuff, because the ancient European tribes, they need to, get their self-identity back and get more powerful again, because, the entire history and everything that we're learning is, it's all bunkum, it's crap, you go to, university, it's a university. You go to college, it's collage of information, and the people who come out owning all of that knowledge are the people who are enslaving everybody, So, a lot of my stuff, I'll only, speak to those who, are deserving of it, who, I see as wise or whatever as well, So, yeah.
Well, and I think that that's kind of, I mean, this is all part of it, is having discernment as opposed to judgment, right? Don't you think that that plays a big part?
Yeah, definitely. That's like one of the main parts. There's the languages of man are diverse. Nowadays, in the modern world, and people need to be able to identify the wolves from the sheep, or the pretenders from those who are real. And if they can identify that, then that in itself will help them to stay clear of danger and to stay clear of people and things, basically their labor, will be protected, instead of being stolen from them, because the Nazi Germans a long time ago, they said, work sets you free. But, it's only half true. Work sets you free, yes, but it's not when it's working for somebody else. It's when it's working, for your true self, your goal. So they kind of take truths and they kind of put it into the ego realm and make the truths work for them, if you know what I mean. So you need to, just be discerning, and cultivate yourself, do stillness, that will make you more receptive straight away. If you do stillness every day and, meditation, to, being more sensitive to everything, to people who are, true and people who aren't, you'll have a gut feeling, it's called knowledge in the universe, and people need to cultivate their knowledge, the self-knowledge,
Well, and I think that that's something that if people can really understand that it is held within them, that the meditation and the silence is just allowing you to connect into something that is already there. It's not something that's created or you have to work on or that needs whatever it is. It's about really being able to connect into, like what you're saying, experiencing the physical reality from a place of happiness, love, joy, instead of these lower vibrations that are being shoved down our throat right now. Again, maybe out of our own creation, not trying to put, again, outside of us.
And it seems though, as we check in with ourselves, we have to have the guts to take in what we've learned from ourselves and apply it out there into our reality. So if someone doesn't feel right, but I feel bullied by them to be to do something with them or to have a conversation with them, and I know that they're leading me down the wrong path, even if it's something that I'm interested in, to have the guts to say, you know what, I really don't want to talk to you, and then not talk to them. And really deciding what doesn't serve you in your life and getting rid of those things, but having the guts to do it from the knowledge of who you truly are.
Well, and I think it's also a point of, and tell me what your opinion of this, Daniel, is, because one of the things that I'm really trying to work on for myself is that when a vibration hits me from someone else that I do not like, they're doing something that I don't like, they're acting in a way that I don't like, it's rubbing me, it's causing me, whatever it is, I have to take a look within myself. I have to look at, why is that triggering me? What is it about myself that I am either seeing, again, as a reflection, in my opinion, or as something that I need to work on, blah, blah, blah. What do you think?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just clicking around then. Yeah, it's everybody around you, is a reflection, just like we've spoken of loads, and the universe, and people, people are teachers. You just need to put yourself into a space where what you're learning, I mean, even if people around you are bad or negative, you can still learn from them. You can learn what not to do. You can learn sin, which means error. Sin means error. What not to do. So you can learn what not to do from them. But also the people who are actually a lot more wiser, who actually do have things to learn. And you can learn from them as well. And I mean, there's so much you can learn. You just need to choose. You need to find out what your nature is, and then you need to, go in that direction, basically. And, it'll feel very peaceful for you. The more you're following your true, purpose and your destiny, the more peace you're going to feel at a higher level as well. Don't resist, your heart with the selfish mind. Like I said earlier, there's two minds a person has. Don't allow your ego, the I, which you think is you, control your life, because a lot of the thoughts that you have in your head, they're shared by multiple people simultaneously, all at the same time. That's why it's called the mental environment. It's a dimension, your thoughts can influence them and they can influence your thoughts. But if you're not within the mental environment, if you're not operating from that level, you're operating from a higher level, your higher consciousness and your higher self, the mental environment has no effect on you whatsoever. You like advertisements, they have no effect on you because they're all tailored to, body identification. They're all tailored to, your ego, but you're above all of that. So, you're awake and aware, you don't need any of the crap that they're trying to sell you and give you because you've already got everything you need and more as well, and, they need us, these controllers or people who try to dominate or beings who try to dominate, but we don't need them, and we've done, yeah, go on.
I'm sorry, that's a good question though, is that when you say abundance and that we have more than what we need, we are always in manifestation and creation. Do you think that there has been maybe a negative vibration on having things or having abundance? And so in the new age and all of these other things, it's almost thought of as retreating to nothing, where I feel like that it should be an integration of the ancient along with technology and evolution, being able to literally manifest whatever it is that we see, want, have. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's physical. It doesn't matter if it's a relationship, abundance, in whatever it is. We should be at a point now, or I want to think that we're going in the point or direction where that's possible.
Yeah, I think anything's possible, but I always like to go on, from where we are right now, as opposed to where, the mind wants to be or thinks it should be or whatever, because then you can really build something constructive and you can actually go from the steps. Like they say, don't try to, fly before you've learnt to, walk and then run and then, jump into the air or whatever, So,
Which I think is very true. So then it brings me to the other question of what about the people who are doing it? What about the people who are experiencing dimensional travel, that astral project, that lucid dream regularly, that are born with gifts that are beyond the reality or physical reality of what is thought of as the norm? What do you think is happening there?
Yeah, I mean, I experienced a lot of that myself, through my journey, and that's one of the reasons why I chose my YouTube avatar as well. And, some of the things that I do, but, don't get, lost within that because, yeah, you might be having mystical spiritual experiences and stuff to a high extreme, but, the only use, for you is how can you bring that knowledge back and then apply it within the world constructively, So don't get lost in all of that stuff, for long periods of time. Delve into it. Yeah, if there's questions you want to know, explore, but, when you have your answer, don't, just don't get lost in it. That takes you out of the world because true spirituality will always make you stronger. It will take you out of the world for small amounts of time, but then it will always bring you back to the world, armed up to the teeth with, spiritual knowledge, to do battle. It will always make you stronger and put you back into the world.
Which makes a lot of sense. And I think I love that you're saying that because I think that that's where a lot of the misdirection has gone, is teaching people to be outside of the body, to be experiencing a realm that is, again, I believe is in existence because I really, I think that there are all dimensions going on in this reality all the time, but it's not our vibrational sequence at this moment to see them. So when you go outside of the body and you start experiencing all these things, do you think that it actually inhibits or dwarfs or whatever the experience that we're supposed to be having now?
Well, I don't think it inhibits it. I think it gives you an expanded awareness, where as the program of this world tries to build boxes for everybody, we live in boxed homes, in countries like that, and it's a very, linear, like kind of, conformity. It tries to make you conform. But, I think that, experiences like that, and people who, do, what the DMT and stuff, they have experiences that, take them outside of the box, so I don't think it inhibits it. I think it's a good thing, it's a higher level of consciousness, and they've seen something more, something greater than the box that they've tried to been shoved in, their awareness is already greater than the box that has been, constructed to them to to enslave them and stuff. So I think it's a good thing. I just think that people, need to not get lost in that, for, long periods of time, because, ultimately, they were born in the world, with a purpose, everything has purpose, and they need to realize what the purpose is. And that anything they learn, they can bring back into the world and give it to others, give it to the world, because that's what it's really for. It's not even about us. It's about, giving, what we have, to create a better world, and to improve it.
I definitely agree with that. And I think that that is part of our own experience as well, is it's once we come into that place of understanding what that gift to the world is, it also is the reflection of what is the gift to us, to bring us into that higher vibration, to experience this world where we're supposed to, right?
Yeah, because ultimately, it's a war on consciousness itself, to keep people from connecting to that higher, consciousness, like I says, you must, have a relationship with your higher self, it's not an individual, it's a relationship, and you must start every day, to have that relationship with that part of yourself, because then you can't be put within any box ever, you're greater than the people who are actually trying to put you into the box, you're far more aware, far more focused, and and because of that you're far more concentrated, and concentration is power in a being. The more concentrated, the more potent an influence you have on all beings of lesser concentration.
Well, and I
So
think that
yeah.
that's brilliant. That's a brilliant point, because it can be, I think that it got manipulated, right? I mean, that's the exact point that they're using now as the level of keeping the control, using what is within the human being, amplifying it, putting them into a place of where they're just reliving the trauma and the lower vibrations within their own body, right? It's like the trap is really within themselves until they can pull themselves to this higher level of consciousness that you're speaking of.
Yeah, and just, like I says, focus on it every day, take some time out for yourself every day, know that, you do have that divine spiritual self within inside yourself, because we are, spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience. So, once you have it in the right, context and everything, then it becomes easier. And, the most important things in a person's life, like I said earlier, which I didn't quite finish, but it is, they have 4 pillars, like the legs of a table in their life that they must work on. And, your spirituality and your life is only as strong as the weakest pillar. And the 4 pillars are, relationships, your health, your work and providership pillar, and your spirituality pillar, and, some people get lost in just the spirituality, so the health or relationships suffer. Some people go too far into the work and providership, so the relationships suffer again, or, the health. But as long as you have, the 4 pillars balanced, and you're always conscious of it every single day as well, then you'll become a very powerful, spiritual being,
Which is also a part of being in that happiness, that love vibration, right? It's not about, again, like when you're saying and using words like power and powerful, I think a lot of times that gets perceived as being an ego or as being above others, when in reality it is just being able to experience what we're here to experience.
Yeah, I mean, within the ego, power, is abused, and it's always, self-destructive and destructive to anybody that's, in the way of it. But when it's coming from a higher place, power is, it's just how you move energy from one domain into another. And all you're doing is moving more of your energy, from a higher dimension, into your being now, into a lower dimension, and as long as, you're doing it, in a place of your heart and not your human mind or ego, and you're doing it with wisdom, and it has an equal and opposite wisdom, that restrains it from becoming destructive, and restrains it from creating utter chaos, like in the past. So that's the thing.
Which again, I mean, you're making so much sense, and I hope that the listeners are really able to grasp on to what you're saying. I feel like you're really communicating in a way that may be opening up and planting seeds for this to become a reality for a majority as opposed to um, a minority, right? It seems to be happening quickly, and I really appreciate your wisdom and the amount of effort that you've put into accomplishing your mission or your goal, whatever it is that you see that you're here to do. I think it's awesome.
Cheers. Yeah, it's just an ongoing thing, My work's constantly, evolving from what it was into what it is now, and it's just, I have to make minor adjustments, to what's going on, within the world as well. Like, YouTube's a completely different place nowadays to, how it used to be in the past and stuff, and, there's a lot more stricter rules there now, with, many things. And, it's just basically, intelligence is not how you can take an information and then regurgitate it, Intelligence within the universe is, how you adapt to change, quickly. So, if you want to become, intelligent, then just become adaptive, become fluid, be as water, as Bruce Lee said.
And I think that's a great point again, because when you start talking about being fluid, allowing things to flow, being open, if we can't perceive it, if we can't bring it into the consciousness, we have to allow it to come from somewhere, right? And it's in the collective. So it just makes sense that what you're saying about connecting in and being in that space of openness, it really has to be the key.
Yeah, definitely, I mean, we all have keys within inside us, and, there's so many doors, and I just, just basically just be fluid and be open, and then, use discernment so you're not, taken advantage of, with your work that you do, and, with the energy you're putting in. Because, within the same space in this world, there's vampires, and then there's, sorcerers, and, you need to learn to be a sorcerer,
Well, this is the perfect show for that. Because that's kind of, I believe that alchemy, natural health, growing our own food, doing all of these things, it shouldn't be the minority of people doing it. It should be how things are, and allowing the technologies and free energy and things that will make these all a possibility and easy for people to remember how they can take care of themselves, as opposed to being so dependent on the governments, the religions, the things that have taken us outside of our being.
Yeah, and I say, it's all about response, ability, responsibility, and just, making minor adjustments, even if you make one small minor adjustment a day, and you work towards, something good that you know is good, then, you're becoming, refined more, and you're becoming a little bit stronger each day. If you take time out for yourself every day, then each day you'll become a little bit more yourself, more your true self. And, that's why I like to do meditation every day. That's why I like to create my works and stuff that I do, and all my work and my paintings and, everything else I do, because I know that each day I'm becoming, more me, the real me, and I get to share all my gifts with everybody else, just as you do and, others. So, and in giving, that, is making you stronger anyway. So, and through that, you feel fulfilled and you get a hell of a lot of peace as well. and that's the kind of peace that, I never give up.
Well, because I think it almost becomes addictive, right? It's almost like you can't imagine being outside of that space. And when it does come, it's like, oh, it's a warning sign, not necessarily a trauma,
Yeah, and you get to carry, the peace around with you while you're within the world, all over the place. So it's, what you gain, nobody can take away your experience. So what you've gained through experience and what you gain, it can never be taken away, and it becomes a part of you, and that's true evolution, really,
Well, I think isn't there a place of where we have to, again, change almost the structure of our own inner being to be able to accept the things that are capable, the limitations that our body has accepted as far as if you don't eat right, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, all of these things, going to the doctors, going and handling all of the things, again, outside of our being. Do you think that that's a huge step for people to take, or do you think that that's going to happen with flow as soon as they start realizing more of their own self?
I think it's, it's different with everybody, but I think that, basically if people put in the work today, on themselves in, whatever area, like I said, we identified 4 areas. There is the relationships, and it's not just with people, it's with items or material possession or whatever else, the relationship to anything, within themselves, or like you said, carrying beliefs around or thought forms or whatever that, no longer serve them. I don't take anything from the past that doesn't serve me in the present, giving all of it up. And to me, there is only this one moment, there's no past, there's no future, I just create as I go, I'm in fluid awareness, as I like to call it. So I just, create and go, knowing that abundance is within me. And that's, through living that way, it will create abundance around me, and for others, allow me to give to others. And then there's your health as well, being conscious of your body. Everybody can have a better diet and work on their body, and I like to exercise every day, for instance, and do weights because, I think, that's what a human would be doing anyway, in the natural world, in nature, when they were created. Physical, your body needs to be strong, not only to operate within the world, but you want it to also last as long as possible, so that's something everybody can work on as well. So that's relationships and health they can work on, so that's going to keep them busy. And then there's work and providership, your spiritual work online and stuff, or, whatever you do, or yoga, or, whatever you like to do. And then there's the, your work, within the world as well, earning money and stuff and providing, for your family and stuff. And then lastly, there's your spirituality as well, which is something that everybody can work on. But like I said, don't just work on just one area and get it sorted. Sometimes, different areas require different degrees of work, obviously, but as long as you have all 4 pillars of your life, balance, relationships, your health, your spirituality, and your work and providership, then, you'll be, it's all good.
So I really can appreciate all of this. And thank you so much for coming on to this show. And I hope that everyone enjoyed your knowledge and the wisdom that you bring forward and can plant the seeds necessary for humanity to experience what's coming next. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope everyone enjoyed the show. Good night, everybody.